Welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and today's episode is another exciting episode where I get to go back into the past and look at the pictures. Today's topic is going to be San Diego Comic Con 2004. Okay, now I've just recently met up with one of my friends that was on the trip, and we discussed some of the things and some of the memories that we had on that in that trip. And so I was not going to be able to use too much of the audio that was used in the hub because just we were in a restaurant and I was just using it to sort of take notes and that kind of stuff and physical reminders of stuff. So can't use too much of that for the interview or anything like that. But it gives me an indication. I did remember that we did trade our cameras and all the different pictures and that stuff that was in the cameras, so that we're able to do some of that. So I'll show you some of that kind of stuff and in this particular video. All right. So again, before we begin, don't forget to go down below, click and click subscribe. Um, but about 60% of you are already subscribed, and I really appreciate that. And again, hopefully the rest of you, I hope I've earned your subscription, and you go hit that red button, subscribe, and also maybe click that notification bell because obviously YouTube is starting to get better on recommending my videos now. But for the mass majority, you won't know when I release videos until you get that notification ring. All right, so go ahead and do that. Anyway, so the year is 2004, and this is one of the times that we got to go down to San Diego for a trip down to the Comic Con, and this year, I kind of I knew I had from the previous year bought the tickets to go to San Diego Comic Con, so I definitely from 2003. I definitely knew that I wanted to come back for 2004. Now I knew that it was going to be sort of a last moment. I didn't have the right same people that was going around, and and so we decided, oh, look, let's grab gather some friends, and then just sort of we'll go down together, okay? And so anyway, I got some pictures and I got a little bit of audio, and I'll go over some of the stories that will go there, and and I'll explain some of them as that. And I think there's probably enough for a couple episodes here of some of the material that I got. So yeah, we'll go back a little in the past and see what it was like to go to San Diego Comic Con during the height of anime. The anime boom, shall we say? All right. A lot of people,
The one thing that I like about Initial D in that sense is that the relationships, they felt very real in that, like, so many story arcs in Initial D, they're just filled with sadness. It's just like they're like so much like brokenness and like brokenheartedness. It's like I just think that for me makes it very like relatable in the sense of like you know it's not always a happy ending. Like Takumi like loses, and also Itsuki like doesn't get like a girlfriend, uh, and who's that other guy? Uh, yeah, Takumi and Natsuki don't like end up together. Um, Iketani and uh, the other Sylvia girl, they don't get it. Yeah. They don't get together. It's I thought that was I like the sadness. I like how it's like it's. You're right though.
Okay, so again, another reason why I liked Initial D was just because of the character and character developments and the different arcs that go on. And yeah, Vince is right. Like many other shows I was starting to watch at this time, whether it was Maison Akaku, Ranma, Orange Road, um, and any of these sort of even GTO, for example, City Hunter. I've always I've been really interested in that that bond between the two main characters or whatever, or exactly what was going to happen between them, going throughout the particular story. And you're right, not every time it's going to be a happy ending like Maison Akaku or something for something, right? the one of the other animes that about the same parallel that I would draw with Initial D is GTO. Again, not very good character design, but a really fascinating story. And if you want to talk about realistic characters and that kind of stuff and whatnot, a part of the reason why I liked GTO so much was the fact that, okay, sure, it's it's a high school type story again, but many of the characters that were in that that are in there and in his class, okay, let's call a spade, right? Those people, those students that he had, right, Onizuka had, were like the total messed up people, right? They are the total if you had the worst or say basically more typical examples of people in high school culture, that anime pretty well has it, right? I mean, it has your it has your the bullies, the the nerds, the women cliques, and all this kind of stuff is all represented in that anime, whether it's in the anime, whether it's in the live actions, whether it's in the movie, whatever. But it all had various different things. And when I watch it, I can go, yeah, I remember that person in my class. And I know that there's that person. There's there's the genius. There's the computer nerd guy, and there's the sports jocks, and I can go through the list of various different people, and and then you wonder, okay, well, those two are going together, and these two are that, but whatever happened to them, what happened to them, and all this kind of stuff, and so that's why I enjoy it when I get to go through that story and finally go to the outcome, whether it is like a happy ending, like say for example Mizuno Kaku, or whether it's just they finished apart and they grew apart like they did in Initial D. Not every ending can be a happy ending, okay? But I said it does move me when there is a sort of a not a happy sort of progression, or shall we say the journey of life, right? Because life is not always happy all the way through.
It's just real life sadness. Yeah, that's Lonely Driver. Yeah. For me, that is really realistic in the sense that there's heartbreak, there's sadness, and there's real emotion to it. That's why I was oh, you really empathize with the characters. I feel, yeah. Nice.
No, it's definitely, for me, it was definitely a draw. I wanted to see how that ended up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that just added to, whether he, not just whether he won or lost.
Yeah.
Was this gonna get them closer together?
Yes, yeah.
What was the thing that was gonna find it? And then the end,
they did it. Yeah.
It's just
But that's how real life is.
Yeah.
It's not all happy endings. So I appreciate that. So Initial D definitely influenced car culture a huge amount. It alongside with Fast and Furious, the prices for the Torino Hachiroku went through the roof. Really expensive now. Oh, and the other, yeah.
It is true.
Yeah. The other thing, now I remember now. Initial D was also at a really important part in car culture because at that time, the only media that we got from Japan racing was Best Motoring, VCDs and everything like that. That had Keiichi Tsuchiya and all those other racers and everything like that. Those sort of videos. So then, they were really clips that you would find on Kazaa and everything like that. You download all these Japanese racing and Japanese drifting.
Well, yeah, because we really had no
had no access. But then Keiichi Tsuchiya was actually advisor to the show of Initial D to talk about like racing and driving lines, and they even mentioned like even Tsuchiya had like I think like an actual like he is technically in the Initial D universe because in one of the first few episodes.
He was one of the pro drivers.
He's a pro driver. He's still a pro driver.
His dad got the
Phone,
engine problem.
yeah. So he ends up phoning like Bunta, Takumi's dad, actually ends up phoning Tsuchiya, and he's like saying like, oh yeah, I remember like your driving is so crazy, it makes me even scared or anything like that. So like Tsuchiya is actually canon in the Initial D universe and everything like that. And that for us as people who like cars and everything, like we knew this Keiichi Tsuchiya guy is like super legit because we saw him driving in Best Motoring videos. So that's kind of why Initial D is important to us who like Japanese like culture and Japanese like racing, because like he's like one of the most key influential figures in Japanese motorsport.
No, that's true. Like I said, I knew his stuff was there, but
Yeah.
it was. You're right. It was super hard to get that because like most rental stores.
They don't have that stuff. They don't have that stuff.
None of the stuff would have it.
Yeah, no.
And you're right. I think I might have seen on an odd VCD.
Yeah, it's hard as hell to find Best Motoring. Yeah. They were like super expensive too. I think if I saw like them, they're like $65 a piece or something like that for like some like VCD or something like that. Yeah.
And, like videos were said, well, you didn't watch videotapes. Were that expensive?
Yeah.
Normal. I remember those. Even trying to get those. When we were talking about those. How to play Street Fighter 2 Turbo. They were like 6,500 yen. Still 65
bucks. Yeah.
And it'd be only like 30 minutes. 45
Yeah,
minutes.
30 minutes. Yeah.
They just, they give you like,
the combos
6-7 combos per guy.
Yeah.
And then they just go to the next character, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you just had to kind of watch that and go, okay, I'll write it down on a piece of paper. I'll go to the arcade.
Exactly.
Right?
So I just want to remind everyone that, at this time, if the price of a Japanese item is, let's say, 6,500 yen, which is, would be for like, a videotape of like Street Fighter. All right. Normal conversion would be like a penny to the yen, so that would be 6,500 yen would be about $65 US. Now, places like Sophia's bookstore, Wasi bookstore, that stuff, what they had is a yen to dollar conversion chart. So not only would it convert yen into Canadian dollars, but it also would add their handling fees, shipping, and customs and duty, and and of course on some things it also include tariffs, right? But yeah, so they had this conversion chart, and most of the time, especially when I was buying the majority of my anime collection, it was at least 2.1, 2.2, I mean up to like 2.6, right? So 65 100 yen would be like $65, right? But I mean, even at 2.0, right, that's $130. So this videotape that we get, right, it's 165 yen, would easily probably be $130, $150 by the time you're all done, and then you had to pay GST and PST on top of that for like 30 minutes of video, teaching you how to play Street Fighter 2. With the combos and all that other stuff, or a racing car video or something like that. 30 minutes, that's all you'd get, right? So, you gotta admit, the anime and like literally anything from Japan at this time was extremely expensive.
Yeah, yen was strong back then. Because they had their own conversion rate that they were fixed. They had it was taped onto their freaking like counter on how they exchanged it. It's kind of bullshit. Pretty much like a 2,000 yen book was $50 essentially. Yeah.
But the thing is that you had no choice. Really.
You had no choice. You literally had no choice.
There was nothing else.
There was nothing else.
And fortunately, our store was not getting that they had a rental section, which I got a lot of good programming from, that's for sure. although some of the best surprises I got was, when the tapes got old, right? They would mark them down to 99 cents.
Oh yeah.
And they just put them on the bottom.
Yeah.
You could buy them for 99 cents.
Yeah.
I would just say I'd drop it $100 and just buy
so much.
100 cassettes.
Oh.
Or 90 or whatever. Just buy a whole whack of them. And then go through them, go through and find them, see if there's any interesting in it. And I find the most wackiest stuff. They talk about how, some of the best ideas for Japanese game shows, obviously for Japan, they have such.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that, I've been showing you some of the examples of some of those weird game shows and that kind of stuff that I've, found on those cassettes when 99 cents, just. A lot of times, what they do is they just peel the label off of it, right? So you wouldn't know what kind of show it is, what kind of section it is, and so they just put it into a bin or into a pack or something, and you get 10 cassettes for $10 or something like that. So I said easily I'd buy 100 of them, just one shot, one bowl, just poof. Just give me 100 of them. I mean, if I had more, I'd probably just buy the entire collection, right? But whatever. So you just get 100 unlabeled tapes, and especially at the beginning when they didn't bother erasing them and whatever, so they just kind of whatever, just save some time and just don't so a lot of times I just pick them up, have no idea what they are, whether it's gonna be a TV drama or a music show. Game show. Maybe it's just the news, right? The news broadcast or something, right? That's sometimes that's all it was, right? But I'd go through them and I said found some really funny games. Like there's the one where they got the 6 video game nerds, that are part of the video game industry, go against the the elementary school kids, and try to beat them on their console games, and then they take them to the Namco or the Sega arcade, and then see how well they do in the arcade, that kind of thing. And then there's the other one where they get the as a promotion event where they get 2 afternoon soap stars, if you want, whatever, soap shows, right? And to promote the shows, they got, the one team or the one TV show cast against the other TV show cast, and they're gonna take them to the Namco arcade and then make them play all these, Namco arcade games, and then whoever wins, would get some sort of prize or whatever. And so there's that kind of a game show, and then there's other ones where they're doing the tower challenge, right? And there's this one reoccurring character that's trying to basically they start with 100 guys, and they basically have to do this these different competitions and that stuff in order to get that and whatever. So that's a really funny one. So eventually, I know one of the ones I'm going to eventually do is the giant shogi. Which is going to be one that's I'm going to make it coming up. So again, make sure you subscribe and make sure you have the notification turned on. But basically, imagine this: shogi is like chess, right? And then basically, it's, I think it's tunnels. I think that does it. So the one guy, like the 2 TV hosts are the 2 kings, right? Or the players, and then each chess piece is represented by a person. Okay, so when, let's say, the pawn attacks the queen, for example, right? Then these, the person who represents the pawn, in this case, it's usually a, like an announcer, or maybe like a comedian or something, right? They lower the pawn, the comedian, into the arena, all right? And then on the other side, it's the queen, right? Now the queen usually is like a in this case a professional female wrestler, okay? One of those masked wrestlers or whatever, right? So they lower her into the arena, and then they'll usually do something like they spin a wheel, and the event is, and then it's like, and then the wheel goes around, and it's like it's gonna be like sumo, or maybe it's boxing, maybe it's log rolling, or knock the person off the platform, like fencing type of thing, right? Or some sort of weird event like that, right? And then so the basically that guy, usually the unathletic comedian has to go against the professional female wrestler and try to beat her at whatever happens to be. And again, if they end up like something like boxing or some sort of strength related type of thing, most likely the comedian's gonna get himself pounded, right? But maybe if it's some sort of balance thing or something, or some sort of accuracy type of thing, maybe the guy might have a chance and win, right? So this is part of the comedian. Anyway, so yeah, I know that later on when they did this sort of competition thing, they started bringing in professional wrestlers, professional boxers, Olympic athletes, MMA fighters, things like that, into the thing, and it was a really funny mix. Anyway, so in a future episode, I'll do that one, just as a note of one of these funny things I managed to find in these tapes. I hope you had kind of fun and a little blast from the past. And don't forget, I'll be doing more kind of episodes where I bring out some pictures and more merchandise and collectible stuff from that past era. Okay, so until next time, see you again.